Hello, everyone. Welcome to this web presentation of our course, and we're going to go through some slides, and part of that will be to introduce ourselves. So let me share the screen with you. I am Eric Brody, and Professor Renstrom will introduce herself very shortly. And our class, our course, our participatory experience is going to be about learning and testing using a method of scrambling and unscrambling. This is for learning for yourself, for testing others, for learning new material. And this is prompted by many factors. One of them is the fact that throughout our lives now, we have to learn increasing amounts. Not only K through 12, not only college, but after that, there's just more and more we need to understand. Even for leisure, we have to learn how to play games. So how to fix things, how to do things. And for all this, we want to make that learning experience productive and interesting and more like a puzzle, more like a game. And so we need brand new ways to do this. Fundamentally, we're going to be talking about and studying and discussing learning by modifying and rearranging things to make a whole, kind of like a puzzle. This refers to a description that we put together that we're trying to learn, or how to do something, a procedure. It could be a poem, and I'll give you an example of that. So this is the project that was started at Boston University a number of years ago, funded by the university, called NOLA, and it explores a particular way to use technology to learn and to assess learning. And part of this course will be to compare NOLA with artificial intelligence. And so I'm going to give you an example, but I want to introduce us first, myself. I'm a computer science professor. I'm also a poet. I've been at Boston University since 1990. My name is Eric Brody. I got my PhD in mathematics from Columbia. I teach artificial intelligence. I teach machine learning, and I do research in AI and in software engineering. And I'm going to hand the screen over. I think I'll just go to the next slide, Joelle, and Professor Renstrom can introduce herself.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Joelle Renstrom. I'm a lecturer in the Rhetoric Division at the College of General Studies, and I've been at BU since 2008 in the CAS writing program and also in the Rhetoric Division. So I teach writing, so I'll be doing the more communication and marketing focused parts of the class. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And when I'm not teaching, I'm a freelance science and technology writer. So I'm very interested in robots and artificial intelligence and that sort of thing, and also how projects like this can differentiate from them or can be easier to devise or implement. And I'm also particularly interested, since I'm a writing teacher, in ways that we might be able to assess writing by ways of scrambling and unscrambling words, since that's sort of my currency.
Okay, thanks, Joelle. So I'm going to give you an example to show you what NOLA is like to use one particular interface. We've actually developed several. And this example is an example in poetry. And imagine that we're interested in the way Emily Dickinson builds her poems and the pieces that she uses and the order that she uses and how to do it. And we're going to choose one of her poems, which is actually quite famous, which doesn't mean that the average person can simply recite it or even put it together. It's actually a little harder than you might think. And so we start out with fragments. In this case, the fragments are sentences or lines of the poem. Here they are. There are actually 12 lines. And the 13 and 14 say that there are actually two stanza breaks, actually, so that there would be 3 stanzas is what that suggests. And so the idea is, in thinking about the poem and thinking about how the way she does this, we're going to put this scrambled version of her poem back together. In this situation, we've actually arranged the lines alphabetically, which is often a convenient way to do it. It fundamentally randomizes it. We could do it other ways as well. And then we have an interface which is spreadsheet based, this particular one, in which we drag uh, the lines are in this middle panel and we drag them around to put them in right order. The interface actually allows for more than just line by line kinds of things. It also allows for paragraphs, and I'll show you how it does that. But we're just going to be interested in these two panels, actually mainly in the middle panel. So I'm going to flip to that demonstration, which is right here. And what you see are the lines, and if you hit you can drag these around to reorder them, which is what we're going to try and do. And I have to tell you up front that I don't have the poem memorized, and I will probably not get this perfect, but the idea is to show you the thought process. So you sort of might start to think about, uh, okay, where would she start? She doesn't have titles for poems. Her titles for her poems are the first line. So you can sort of think about, and that's sort of one thing that you could hint. And if you look at these, the ands are probably not a good first line. And so you think about, well, um, maybe this is a good one. And I know it's a good one because that's the name of the poem. It's called Hope is the Thing with Feathers. So you can drag that up here. And now you've got the start, at least you think you've got the start, you've compared with other ones. But the whole idea is to make you think about the contents of whatever you're dealing with. So I think hope is the thing with feathers. And, it probably is that perches on the soul. You could say that kept so many warm. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And so the idea then is by thinking this through, you're trying to sort of understand how she puts things together. So there it is. It starts. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches on the soul, and now we have a bunch of possibilities, and I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe a line break would be over here, which is wrong, but you can play with that and think about the contents of the way she does it. So the whole, if I can get back the whole idea of NOLA is to provide the subject, the learner, with pieces of something and have them think about how the pieces go together. You could actually think of every time you write something, your pieces are words. So you're picking from a huge set of words to make something. And so what we're doing is we're narrowing down what you're picking from to create the artifact. Some of these could be spurious fragments as well, which makes it even more difficult. And now, for example, you could take something you're trying to learn, a piece of philosophy that's maybe a page long. You could send it through NOLA, which randomizes the sentences, and then you try to put it together, which forces you to think it through. And one of the advantages we think of NOLA is that, as opposed to, say, multiple choice, you learn by doing it. It's not a throwaway thing. And so that's really what we'd like to do, learn. And of course, it could be used for testing as well. So I'm going to go back to our slides and continue to talk about um, what this course is going to do. NOLA is the theme, and we'll do a bunch of different alternatives. And these will be done by groups of about 5 students with our help and coaching. And I'll do this first set, and Professor Renstrom will do the other ones. So one of the questions is, how much can you actually learn? How much do you learn from a process like this by modifying and rearranging fragments? In this case, it's textual. We haven't done visual, but if there's a group that thinks we can do the same sort of thing visually, great. We'll be interested in new ideas as well, of course. But how much do you actually learn? Once I've done that poem, have I learned much about Emily Dickinson, or have I not? So we need to evaluate that. We've done some work on that, but that's one project that one group of students might be interested in doing. And then the next one is, well, how does that compare with testing, other ways of testing like multiple choice? Is it better? Is it worse? In what way is it better or worse? These are really challenging things to answer, questions to answer. And then one group will look at AI for learning in general. How does AI enhance learning? How can it? How should it? How does that compare with NOLA? So I'm going to go to the next slide and pass this on to Professor Renstrom. Joelle, are you picking up?
Yep.
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
just sharing my screen
Well, no,
here.
I've got the slide up here, so
Oh, I'm
I,
not seeing it on mine.
oh, you're not? Oh, okay. Well,
No.
then, where do I stop sharing? Okay. I need to make sure I stop sharing before you get it, don't I? Oh, no, you can share.
I think,
It's
yeah.
okay. It wasn't showing up, actually. I think,
I know.
yeah, yeah.
It's it's fun.
Okay,
Technology,
right.
right? Perfect. All right. So there's yeah, as Professor Browdy said, we're going to be splitting up into groups and doing some kind of focused learning outcomes. And he'll be more in charge of, I think, well, I mean, since he devised NOLA, in charge of maybe some of the technical questions or how can the program itself be changed. And I'll be interested, I mean, in those questions as well, but because I'm bringing a writing and communication background to this, um, I'll be talking about, or we'll be working on ways that we can articulate in language that real people can understand the advantages that using NOLA might bring, how it might be used to assess learning, who might be interested in using it, so both on campus and off campus. And I know that as a writing instructor, I'm already thinking of all kinds of ways to potentially use this in my classes to assess literacy. You can really think about the importance of context clues if you're moving around individual words or lines or sentences. And it even occurred to me actually just watching Professor Browdy play with the lines of the Dickinson poem that writing students could potentially do hands on exercises with their own work to play with the organization to see what's logical, especially students who are struggling with, you know, ordering sentences in a paragraph or ordering ideas. So I can think of a lot of practical applications already that could potentially be of interest to some of our professors at BU and elsewhere. So we're going to kind of think about ways of finding those people and how to explain what this is to them that might make them interested in using it. Particular scenarios, whether they're in a writing classroom or a programming classroom or some other classroom that might, you know, be able to take advantage of a system like this. And then if we, you know, are able to wrap our heads around all of those things, if we could come up with some kind of bigger, you know, marketing communications strategy to sort of promote this program, that would ideally be a great way to end the semester, assuming that we think it's ready for use and we can make a really good case that it could be helpful for people. So yeah, we'll be translating all of the technical stuff into accessible, interesting language so people can get a sense of what this program does and how it might be helpful. I think I'll.
Okay, thanks, Joelle. So I can go back here. Um, yeah, I think I hadn't shown this previously, and no one could actually see it. Just to reiterate some of the points that I'd made very quickly. How much do you actually learn? How do you assess whether it works, whether it's effective, um, and its comparison with artificial intelligence as well. So the way um, the way we see this project is that it spans a large spectrum from the technical, techies like me, all the way through to communication, to writing, to psychology, to education itself. And we feel that there's scope for different groups to do what suits their proclivities, what they're most interested in doing, and then coming together to look at the interaction between different perspectives on an idea. So that's the larger purpose, if you like, of what we're doing. Um, so to end off the presentation part, we have some question and answer, which we'll be happy to do sort of online. You can write to us and ask us. Of course, if there are people online who have questions now, then fire away with your comments and questions. But I think that that's the end of our presentation. Joelle, do you have more to add?
I really don't. Just to reiterate that, of course, reaching out to us, yeah, to get in touch to ask anything is always welcomed. But yeah, other than looking forward to working on this, I don't have too much more to add.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we hope to be seeing you in our class. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.